Hey everyone, how's it going? So what am I working on now? Well, I'm going to make a video here on wire connectors. I'm also going to show these. This was this caused a pretty big uproar, I should say, when I made that video with fixing that fuel pressure switch, tank pressure switch on an F-150, because I was talking about these things and how much I hate them and how much they're junk. And some people were like, oh, they didn't heat them up right and this and that and the other thing. Okay. Well, we're going to do a test here, and I'm going to show you a couple different things, a couple different connectors, and a couple different things that I do. But yeah, so today it's the weekend. It's the holiday weekend. So actually, I was out working in the garage, and man, it's been hot here. So I actually went out and I bought an air conditioning unit for the window just to try to cool the shop down a little bit here. Now, when I picked that up, but yeah, so here in the shop, I did get a little bit of stuff straightened out, not an incredible amount, but I did get some stuff straightened out. I have back issues and I have a knee issue, my right knee. So in some of my videos, you might see me gimping around a little bit. I've been getting injections in my right knee. That just started last week. I'm supposed to get 2 more. And I'm going to a chiropractor for my back. My back issues have been since I was a kid. And I wind up pinching my sciatic nerve, and it aggravates everything on my right side, including my knee, which is a problem anyway. But besides that, so if you see me gimping around, you know why. But yeah, so like I said, I got certain things straightened out. I'm just gonna keep going at it slowly, and then hopefully by next weekend I should be able to start doing something again on the Camaro. But for now, let's concentrate here on this wiring stuff that I wanted to cover. A lot of people asked about those pliers that I use. These are not the same pliers I use, but it's the same type of pliers I used. And I want to go over different types of connectors and heat shrink and stuff like that. And maybe just to satisfy myself too, and some of you, I'm going to actually do like a resistance test and use these connectors that I can't stand. I also have these connectors that I can't stand. And I have these connectors, which these are good in a pinch. However, you got to use them the right way. You got to use them what they're intended for. And then I also have these. These are the same as those other type of crimp connectors, but these you can heat up and shrink in place. These are great if you do them the right way. And that's where a lot of people fail. And the issue I have with these too is the fact that the insulation is already on them, and I'll explain that when we get to it. All right, let me set you up on my tripod. I got my new tripod, yay! And I have it here, but this one's gonna go to work with me. This is a U-Breezy. UB size. They don't endorse me. They don't send me stuff for free. I went and I buy their stuff because it's good stuff. The last tripod that I got, absolute garbage. And I actually bought the best one that was out there, supposedly. So, and I got my microphone here, so hopefully it's going to help this video. Although there's supposed to be a little pad on here, and that fell off already. So we're going to see how well this works. Let me get you set up in the tripod, and then we'll go over some of this stuff. One thing I wanted to show you real quick before I set you up, I have one single strand of wire. So I'm going to do all my testing, I'm going to do all my cutting, I'm going to do all my splicing using this one wire. So we're going to do that just so you know I'm not like messing with anything, and it's all the same type of a test. So just wanted you to see that. All right, so let me cut this in a couple of pieces. These are my pliers from work. These I had gotten, I believe, off the Snap-on truck. I'm not positive. I'd be willing to bet I did, but I can't guarantee it. These are Klein tools. I picked these up off of Amazon. what I'm going to do is I'll put a link in the description for all of this stuff, just so you could pick it up if you wanted to. Now, there's a couple different wire strippers. There's this design, which this works great in a pinch. I am not a fan of these, however. It's a personal preference thing. Now these, I'm trying to look at the camera at the same time while I'm doing this. These, you just put the wire inside and you pull the trigger and it's supposed to like lock and hold and strip the wire. There it goes. And there it strips it. I don't know. I've always had issues with these. I've never had good luck with these. So I have them just in case, but you see, it doesn't grip very well. See how it just like slips? So maybe I got to loosen up on this. I don't know. I never, like I said, I never use these things. I've had them. I can't tell you how many years I've had these things. I use this style. It's what I've always used. But there you go. Nothing spectacular. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use this. Now, you're supposed to take the wire and insert it like this. And then this wire like this. I wonder if this wire is too big for this, technically. This wire might be actually too big for this. Huh. All right, let me hunt around. Let me find some different wire for these. These are the only ones I have. I grabbed a few of these from somebody that I know that had them. I convinced him to not use them, but he still has them in his toolbox. But anyway, let me go grab a different wire that I can use. This is just too thick. This we can use for the other stuff. All right, hang on a second. All right, so I found two wires that I ripped off the Camaro. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this into a couple of pieces. Sorry for the dangling chain noise. This is my little portable bench and it has chains on the side. All right. So now we'll strip. We'll strip. Now I'll grab one of these. You gotta remember I'm blind as a bat too without my glasses. So even trying to do this with my glasses on sometimes is a bit of a pain. All right, so now, as you can see, that's together. And do I not have my lighter on me? I always carry a lighter, and now I don't have a lighter on me. From days of old where I used to smoke, I just got used to carrying a lighter and it comes in extremely handy. As I mentioned before, if you smoke, please stop. It's really not good for you. All right. What I have here is I have my little butane torch. It's actually not a torch, it's a soldering gun, soldering iron, and it's not lighting. Why is it not lighting? I'm physically looking at it, trying to see if I can get it to light. And looks like I'm striking out all around here. Oh, there we go. All right, we finally got it to light. Now, if you could see inside there, you can see it's like orange in the center. I think you can see that. Okay, I don't want to melt my camera. All right, so now with those two wires, they're basically scrunchied in together. They basically did this. The wires basically did this inside here. So now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up this solder. This is low temperature solder. Now, the solder is melted. Didn't take much to melt it, but the solder is melted. Okay? I'm blowing on it from behind the camera. All right. So now, of course, they got heat shrink that did come into play there, and it did shrink into place. And now I'm curious. The solder melted. The solder melted. Did absolutely nothing. Okay, let's try it again. Actually, let's do two different ends now. We're going to try this again. But this time, let me go see if I can find a lighter of some sort. I usually keep one handy in my toolbox too, so let me just see if I have one in my toolbox here. All right, so those are overlapped. Let me see if I can't find a lighter. Hang on a minute. Okay, so I couldn't find a regular lighter, so I have one of these for starting the campfires and stuff. I got to do things a little bit differently, slightly different angle. The reason being is because since I use my phone for all my videos, it wants to rotate the screen when I have it at that angle that it was at before. So I'd have to start the video first and then go to this angle, and it would just be too much of a pain each and every time. So, okay, back to this. So here we have the two wires have interlocked their fingers, so to speak. So now that should be good right there. So now let's light. My wife refers to these as dew flickers. Okay, so that should be plenty of hot because it started to melt the plastic. I don't know if you saw that, but the plastic actually got so hot, some of it started to drip down onto these guys here. Oh, actually, no, the solder actually came out. See that? The solder actually came out of the connector because I got it so hot. But there again, pulls apart. Garbage. Absolute garbage. Okay, all you guys that kept on saying, oh, it wasn't hot enough, you didn't get it hot enough, you didn't get it hot. How hot are you supposed to get these things? I mean, seriously, how hot are you supposed to get these things? So, my little torch, this thing should be enough. This is a soldering iron, it's a little portable soldering iron, butane. You can change the tips, but this tip is used as a heat gun, and I use it for heat shrink all the time. So, let's try this one more time. Okay, so now the wires are intertwined. They're like this, the strands. And you see it's not lit on the inside. Okay, I could hear it lit. See it? It's glowing orange on the inside. All right. So now, let's melt just the center of this. Actually, here, let me see if I can focus in on that a little better. I have a wire stand. Oops, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was off there. All right. Now, I'm going to let it cool down until it's cool to the touch. Back up again. Sorry, my video skills aren't that great sometimes. So obviously you can see I'm blowing the other connectors away. Okay, so it's cooled down now. Okay, garbage, garbage. You cannot convince me that these things are good. Okay, you cannot convince me that they're good. I want to do another test with them. Let me see if I can't think of how to do it. I'm going to do some other things first. But here's this one where the solder actually melted through the actual connector, but now the heat shrink is holding it together because it melted so bad. But I mean, what good is that? That's not good. If you got the solder coming out, you have to get it that hot that the solder comes out. How good is that? It's not good at all. All right, next up. These connectors here, these heat shrink style connectors, okay? These are good. These are good if you do them the right way. I prefer not to use them for a very simple reason. Actually, these are actually too thin for this wire too. I do have larger ones, but let me just use this thinner gauge wire. Like I said, this is stuff I took off the Camaro that I'm just never going to use again. All right. All right, so now you put the wire in. My depth perception is a bit off with my eyesight issues. Now, actually, let me use these because these are the ones, like I said, they're almost identical to those, but these are, I forgot the name of the company. Hang on a second. Klein tools. These are Klein tools. Like I said, all the tools that I own, that I've picked up, nobody's given them to me. I've paid for them. Now, when you crimp these, okay, do not use this end here. This end is for, oops, that end is for this style connector, not the insulated connector. I've seen a lot of people make that mistake. And the reason they make that mistake is because that part of the jaw clamps down a heck of a lot better, but you run the risk of damaging the connector. So that's all you're supposed to do is crimp it in there, and then you have a good, solid, tight connection. Now, what I have seen in the past is people will do this, and I'll show you. People will use the other end. Okay, and I've actually made a video showing a 6-liter GM where somebody had done this. And what do you see? It pierces through the shrink, the connector, the protector here. It pierces it. And then what happens is now you have a spot for water to get into the connection. So let's heat this up. I do prefer this over a lighter. But let me show you. Now this is much slower than using a lighter because a lighter makes much more heat. If you use these the right way, they are perfectly fine to use. Okay. So that's good. You are not pulling that apart, not like the other one. If you're going to pull this apart, you're going to rip the wire. Now, if you look though, move this out of the way. if you look closely, you can see the metal on the inside. Whereas on the other side, you don't, because you didn't pierce the actual insulation. So when somebody does that, and you can actually see the glue coming out right there where my fingertips are. But if you do this the right way, yes, you can use these. I prefer not to, because to me, these are a little on the sloppy side. At least they look sloppy to me. I would use these on trailers and stuff like that. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But you know what I like to use, and I will show you that at the end of the video. All right, so there's that one. The next disaster is these things. I bought these purposely just for this video. I went down to the local box store, hardware store, Lowe's actually. That's where I bought the air conditioner. I was like, huh, let me buy these. I cannot stand these things. These things are just, ugh. I have no, I'm going to throw all these in the garbage when I'm done, just to be honest with you. I will never use them. Oops, sorry about that. How does this work? Okay. You have a wire. The wire slips through like this. Okay. Now, this is the wire that you want to tap into. You want to use this wire for power on something. Well, then you take a wire like this. This is the wire you want to tap into it. And you push it through like such till it bottoms out. Now what happens is you take this door, or whatever you want to call it, and you fold it over, and then you squeeze it down in place. I'm going to go grab a pair of pliers. Hang on a second. A pair of real pliers. Yeah. My most disliked tool brand. They look brand new because they are. I actually bought these a long time ago and forgot I had them. When we moved, I came across the container that had a whole bunch of these pliers in them. So I was just like, well, may as well use them. I got them. So anyway, you close the door on here. And what you want to do is you want to squeeze this all together. Now, if I look a little awkward doing all of this, it's because I'm trying to do this and film and I have the camera in my way. So now you have a connection. How did the connection actually happen? Well, the connection happened because this thing where you passed a wire through, let me see if I can't show you this way. This piece that passes, this metal piece that passes through, see that? That cuts the wire as it passes through the wire. So, not only do you not have a watertight connection, like, because I see a lot of this on trailers and campers and underneath trucks. I see people do this when they're wiring lights. It's just, oh, I can't stand these things. But this little metal guillotine here, this thing, that just cut through the wire. So, you know, you have a nice thick wire that you may have just cut in half. You don't know. You absolutely don't know. That's another reason why you don't use these things. I would use these things only if it was an absolute emergency and I had to get from one spot to another to fix it the right way. That's the only reason I would use these, if this is all that I had available to me. So there, if you look close, you can actually see that's what it does. See how it cut in and into the wire itself? But think about it. How good of a connection is that really? And now the other wire, it just did that. So now you just destroyed the integrity of the wire. You know, because you don't know if you have broken strands or anything in there. You have no idea. None. So all of these are going in the garbage. I just bought them for show and tell. Next is this style. Pick these up also at the same store. These are okay. These are good if you use them as they are intended. These are not waterproof. You should not use these on sensors under the hood, because when you do, let's see, it's got a little staple here. And I've seen, believe me, I've seen this done a million times. When you use these, you put it on a wire. Use this one, for example. And now you crimp it. And you can crimp it with the other end too if you really wanted to, because it doesn't really matter because this thing's kind of exposed. Although, if you do it like that, you do expose the end to possible shorting somewhere, whereas it's a little more difficult to get inside the end there to short it, if you know what I mean. You can use these, and you can put heat shrink over top if you want. I have seen that, but then you wind up with a big bulky wire. So just, I'm going to save these. Use these as intended. The other thing too is if you have these, you can also drive the center out. You drive the center out, and you wind up with these, basically. But these are a heck of a lot more money than these, this style. All right, so enough of that. Let's take a 2-minute break here while I gather my thoughts, because I think I know what I want to test, and I just want to see if it's going to work when I do. Yeah, let me just gather my thoughts here for a minute. All right, so what I want to try doing here now is I want to hook my meter up. Here I got my meter. Here I got my leads. Now I have a single wire here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up to one end. Like, I'm trying to do this and watch through the camera at the same time, so. And there you can see the meter's changing. So there you go. Pretty much 0. So you got 0 ohms of resistance. So right there, we're pretty darn good. Yeah, basically, I was just reading. Like, I have to look over the camera to see what I'm doing here. But yeah, so that tells you, obviously, you got a very good wire. There's very, 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 very little resistance on something like this. Basically 0. So now, what happens when I use one of these garbage connectors? Now, it's going to be hit or miss. I don't know what I'm going to wind up with. I could wind up with a pretty darn good connection. I don't know. But let's do this. I want to try something. Let's cut this wire, and let's cut this wire. Strip out the end. Strip out the end. Okay. So now, let's insert it into here. We're going to make the wires interlock each other. So I actually should have somewhat of a decent connection at this point in time. I would think, because the wires are touching, but they don't have any load on them either. Like if I try to run a light bulb or something. Actually, it's not bad if you consider it. But basically, it's just because the two wires are touching. Okay. So basically, if I wrapped it with electrical tape, it would be the same thing. But you can see the resistance has gone up, and it's changing right there. So let's actually heat this up. Let's see what happens. And now, I'm doing this mostly because I'm curious now. But let's actually heat this up. Is that light? No. That time it did. See it? All right, let's heat this up. And let's melt it. Let's do it all the right way, the way they tell you to do it. And there, oh, I hear Gigi yelling at somebody, or barking at somebody, I should say. Okay. It melted it. Oops. Now let's melt it some more. Hold on. Let's try to be as fair with this test as possible. Oh, I know you can't see me. Sorry about that. All right. So I don't think I could be any more fair than that. It melted down the solder, and the heat shrink is melted. So right now it's showing open because, you know, we're open. But now let's connect it. Okay. Well, it's reading 0. Okay, I'm whoops. I can't even get these things to hold. Gosh, these things are terrible. I can't get them to hold. All right, well, that's one thing I wanted to try. The other thing I wanted to try, hold on. Let me get another piece of wire, or let me clean this one off, see if I can't get this heat shrinky thing off of here. Hang on. All right, now we're going to try something just a touch different. And I'll explain that as we go. Same wire. I want to see if this changes anything. What I just did. What I did was I dirtied up the wire. So now the wire itself is dirtied up, but they're interconnected. You know what? Let's use a lighter. A lot of people are going to use a lighter. Right? I mean, a lot of people are going to use a lighter to do this job. Don't use a lighter if you're around gasoline or anything like that. Okay. So the solder is melted. It's actually almost too hot for me to touch the wire here. Okay. I don't know what my results are going to be, but let's find out. I'm actually impressed. I'm actually impressed, but that's the wire itself. It was there again. Only thing that's holding it together is the heat shrink. Because that's a cold solder connection. A lot of people don't realize it. That's a cold solder connection. Because you're not getting the wire hot enough. When you solder wires together, you're supposed to heat the wire then add solder to the wire so the solder flows. If you heat solder up and drip it on a wire, the likelihood of it gripping, likelihood of it actually making a good contact, is less than 50%. So if you think about it, this is cold solder. This melts with a lighter. Regular solder is a low temperature solder, but not this. This is cold solder. Not good stuff. I was actually kind of surprised, but like I said, with that reading there, I wasn't able to make a good solid dirty wire. Unfortunately, I tried dirtying it up like a little bit of oil and stuff from my hands, but it wasn't enough. But as you see, it ripped right apart. Nothing to it, nothing to make it rip apart. And it did show some resistance there. Let me show you what I usually do, and let's see if there's any resistance changes there, just to be fair. Okay. So now, let's strip the wire. I was going to use the bigger wire, but you know what? Let's do apples for apples. I'll do this wire here. I should have just stripped the other end while I was at it, but oh, I forgot this kit. I'm completely out of the little connectors. It's okay, I'll use the next size up. It's just for demonstration purposes anyway. Plus now I'm curious on how well mine will do. All right, so we already know we have a wire. We have a wire. We're open. But as soon as I make connection, we're at 0. Okay. So now, and I'm going to go the full gamut here. Now for these type of connectors, these are the ones I always use. You're going to use this jaw here. Okay? That jaw there. Now, if you have a mark like this, what I usually try to do is I try to go opposite of that. So I know where the pinching piece is going to come in, so I try to go opposite. You don't have to be exact, doesn't really matter. These are non-seamed. They don't have a seam to them, so it's not as important. I prefer not to use the seamed style, basically where it's like it would have been like a flat piece of metal that they rolled into a tube. I prefer not to use those if I can avoid it. Oh, my meter's getting angry with me. Shut it down for a minute. All right. So there we go. You ain't pulling that apart without breaking the wire. Now, I use this kind of heat shrink. This is marine style heat shrink. It has the glue on the inside. And I've had a bunch of people say different things. Oh, it's not glue, it's silicone, or it's this or it's that, whatever. As far as I'm concerned, it's glue. And for the most part, anything I've ever read, they are actually the same type of glue as what's used in like glue sticks for hot glue guns. So here we go. I figure I'd go the whole gamut and just do everything the way I would normally do it. Okay, so now let's turn our meter back on. Let's do like that. Okay. And make sure we're reading correctly. 0. Okay. So here we go. We're at open. And it went immediately to 0. Remember these other connections? Remember these things, these junk things? Remember it would sit there at 3, and then 2, then 1? This one goes immediately to 0. Immediate 0. So you got a perfect connection there. I think what I'm going to try to do next time around, I don't have anything with me that I can do it with, unfortunately, but I'm going to hook a headlight bulb up and use these with a headlight bulb, and I want to see what happens, you know, when you actually have a load on there. But all right, so that's pretty much it. I wanted to show you all that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Just the wires going together had almost 0 ohms of resistance, so almost, not quite, but that's pretty good. But there again, you could have done the same thing with electrical tape. And are you going to use electrical tape? No, you're not. So if you're not going to use electrical tape, why would you use these? And how many times did it take me to make one actually that worked halfway decent? I used 6 or 7 of them before I got one that actually worked halfway decent. I wouldn't trust it. You can do what you want, but me personally, for my own stuff, nope. You can keep those things. Not worth it. Not worth the potential nightmare it's going to cause. And, oh, that's another thing. One of the commenters, somebody commented on that video where I fixed the Ford. He said he was having a problem with his Range Rover, I think he said, or I believe he said it was a Range Rover. And he, for the life of him, he could not figure out what the problem was. This is somebody over across in England. And he said, because of the video, he knew he had those connectors on his vehicle, but everything tested out okay. But he kept on getting a check engine light and some kind of a drivability issue, but it was really weird and nobody could figure it out. So he went to where those connectors were, got rid of them, put in the kind of connectors that I use, and he said the problem went away. The problem was resolved. So look in the comments, you'll find it, it's there. I didn't make that up. So just to show you that it's for real, you know, I don't trust those things, not at all. So anyway, okay, I hope you got something out of that. I think that was a pretty good video. Took a while to make. I apologize because I'm still in kind of some agony here with my back and my knee, but it is what it is. Tomorrow's Monday, and yeah, I'm probably going into the shop tomorrow because I just got. The shop's been so busy lately, we're actually backed up, and then I was off for that week, so I'm going to probably go in tomorrow and just try to settle up some stuff. All right, hopefully you got something out of that. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.